Hi, this is Pam from National Sewing Back, and it was National Serger Month this April, so I like to show you guys a technique I particularly like, and it's using a two-thread flat lock to create a mock blanket stitch on a serger. So I will show you what that looks like. It's going to look like this, and I'll bring that right up close on the front, and then on the back, it's going to look like that. So it's a pretty way to finish the edge of napkins, and it's a fast, easy way to do it. So I thought I would talk to you about that. But since I'm talking to you about that, it's also giving me the choice here to show you the brand new Viking Amber Air S600 serger. So I'm going to focus on that instead of me. I'm going to come over and straighten that and zoom in. Zoom in a little bit too much, okay? And it's a little dark now, but it'll get lighter in a minute. So one thing, it has this nice little table that slides off, so if I'm sewing sleeves or something, I can put my sleeves right over there to go around the armhole and stuff. This is a machine that will do a cover hem, by the way. There's a 5-thread. It also comes with something I particularly like, is a table. And if I hold this up, you may be able to see the holes. I don't know if you'll be able to see. Yeah, you can see them now. The holes right there. So if you're sewing something in the round, you actually put a pin in here, and the whole thing will stitch in the round. It's really neat. You could use it for this edging that we're doing right now. It also, the table I love. It slides right on. I actually have a table. I've had one several years for all my sergers. I really can't sew without it. It makes life a lot easier to have things support it rather than hanging right off the edge. It also comes with a knee lift. And once you get used to this, it's hard to sew without it. Any of you that have seen me demo in the store, you'll notice that we don't have a place in the store. It's just too tight the way we have them set in to put one of these on. But you'll notice my leg is constantly flipping to the right to use my knee lift. I will tell you that pretty much on all the knee lifts, what I do is the pool noodles. I buy a pool noodle and I cut it about this long, slice it, wrap it around here, and tape it on. So it's about this round, and it's a little easier for me to actually grab that with my knee. And it does Serger sewing machine. That's a technique that I use. So, okay. Now the serger is off right now, and I left it off because I want you to hear what it sounds like when it wakes up. Kind of sounds like a bunch of old ladies getting out of bed. So we're going to zoom in a little bit more. And I'm going to come up here because I want you to see that this is all my information right here. In fact, I'll zoom in a little bit more. And what it came up to when it turned on was a 2-thread flat lock wide. And that will be stitch number 19. Oh. Stitch number 19, okay? And it's giving me all my information here. It's telling me the stitch sort of looks like this. It looks like that on one side, this on the other side. 90 needle, put my needle in the A, and these use EL by 705 needles, which is not a standard serger, but pretty common in sergers, especially ones that do cover hem. Stitch width is 6.0, my cutting width, and that's down below. There's a big dial right down. Right down here, there's a big dial, that gray dial. That's how I adjust my cutting width. And then it comes up here, and it's telling me which fabric I'm using. This is very much a Viking thing. So if I push on this, I can kind of pick my fabric, and it will make adjustments to the stitch length, the tensions, or whatever it needs to do, differential feed based on what my fabric choice is. But in this case, I just have a woven medium, so I'll stick with it. Okay? It's telling me down here my speed is 5. So if I'm not sure about my capabilities, I can drop that down and make that a little bit lower. It also comes with this stylus, which I will tell you, I've been trying to do this with my finger. The stylus is much better. This is my differential feed. If I have to change it, I can. And then this is my stitch length. And actually, I really wanted my stitch length a little bit longer for this particular stitch. The other thing I'm going to show you, but I'm not going to show you that right away, because the other thing I'm going to show you is my tension. So if I look at this, I'm only using 2 threads. I'm using my leftmost needle, which on the top you'll see it's yellow, and my green looper, lower looper port, okay? And I'll get out of this, okay? Now, if I hit information, and that's the little I button right here, it's showing me the stitch, and it's showing, see the dot in the yellow and the dot in the green or aqua? It's showing me that. And let me see what I2, I haven't looked at this yet. Oh great. It tells me my settings. This is my cutting table, so it's telling me my cutting table. Is my cutting blade up? Do I use a 2-thread converter? And what are my settings? So it gives me more information on my settings. And then this says, for sewing fabrics together with a decorative effect, either in the flat lock side or the ladder stitch side. In essence, we're doing that. We're not quite following these directions, surprise. So if I hit my I button again, I'll get out of that. And I'm right over here. Now in this case, I put, instead of a regular needle in the left needle position, I put a 90 top stitch, which has a bigger eye, because I want to run a decorative thread. I'm going to zoom back out just a tad. Oh, that's not out. I put a decorative thread in here in the needle part, and it's a little heavier, thicker, so I needed a bigger needle to carry that thread. The other thing I did, and I had to play with this, is I found out my tensions didn't work the way they were set here, because that 0.4 is for regular thread. I'm not using regular thread. I'm using heavier thread, so I had to make some changes. But this is a stitch. This is a setup I'm going to use a lot. So what I was able to do is, once I made my changes, there's a little heart right here. And I'll zoom in again. Let's see if you guys can see it. Oops. Well, I'm zoomed in now. Sorry. Well, you can see the heart, sort of. There's a heart right here. So what I did is I hit this heart and I saved this stitch. Now I want to get the heart, the stitch back. So if you, let me pull down so you can see the heart just a little bit better. If you use your imagination and you had good vision, that's actually a picture of a little arrow pointing to the heart. So to put it in the heart are my favorite stitches. Now I want that stitch back in the settings I want. I'm going to click this, and I'll zoom out again. Out. And you can see my special stitch. You may be able to rename it. I haven't figured that out yet. But my special stitch, that was the first one. And I will tell you, I don't know how many memories there are. Let's see. 30 memories. For my ability to do this sort of thing, I've never had more than 4 or 5. But I do have some settings I use over and over and over. So it's much easier for me to have saved this. And I typically keep a list of what I have in each one. But this is a flat lock, a 2-thread flat lock. And what I've done with this is I've saved the settings that worked for this particular technique. So I'm hitting my special stitch. Load this stitch. Yes, I would like to. And what you'll see, the biggest difference right here is 2 differences. I have no tension on my needle thread because I'm using a thicker thread. I didn't need any tension. And the other thing is I can't remember. I might have changed this. I don't think I did. The stitch length, I liked it at 3 for this particular technique. So these are all set. I'm just going to say load the stitch. And there it is. Now it's loaded in for me to do what I want to do. Now one other thing this Serger has, and let me open this up, is it has air threading. So those of you that have Serger phobias and you've lost sleep over threading, I'm just going to show you here. I will take the, I'm moving a little closer just to see if I can get some better lighting here. I probably should have some backlighting, but I don't. I'm going to cut my lower looper thread right here. And my presser foot's up, yeah, okay. I'm going to cut that thread, and I'm going to make sure I pull it out of here with the tweezers. Otherwise, I'll be in big trouble. All right. Sorry. We'll get this eventually. All right. Oh, I snapped my tray on there. The easiest way to pull this out is take your hand wheel, rotate it backwards, press a foot up until your needle is as far down as it will go, and your threads will pull right out. So that's just a little trick there. Bring that up. And just like a sewing machine, if you have a thread that goes down into the bobbin or the looper area, pull that out. Don't let it sit down there where you're threading, because it can cause angst later on, okay? Now, I have my looper threading right here, and I pull it down to my lap, and if I come down here, let me just bring that down a little bit, right down here. It has a picture of a stitch, and then it has a picture of tubes, I guess. I have to kind of use your imagination for that one. And if I can show you what happens, if you can see, you know what, let me put a backlight on and see if that helps any. It's not going to help, okay. When I flip this, and nothing happened. Okay, I want you to see that, all right? I'm going to zoom way in for you just so you can see it, okay? That what I'm looking at is right over here. And I flipped this over for threading, but nothing happened. But if I take my hand wheel and turn it, did you hear that click? Now it's closed. You can see that there's a tube that shot right through here. Now I can thread it, okay? So I take my thread, and you have to make sure you have it long enough. I usually say pull it down to your lap. And I'm going to feed it in to my lower looper slot, which is this aqua or green, I'm not sure. Feed it in about an inch. If you have to, a lot of times I use tweezers only because I have very dry skin, and what happens is I let go of it, I pull it out just as fast as I put it in. Feed it in about an inch. When you've done that, push the button and look over at your lower looper, and it is threaded. See the magic of the air threading. So that's already threaded. The same will work on your upper looper. However, in this instant, I'm not using my upper looper. I've actually engaged my 2-thread converter. And I will tell you right now, if you don't do this, the stitch won't work. Trust me on that. I already know, because I made that mistake already. So I had this all set. My settings are all right here. Everything's the way I want it. I'm ready to start stitching. Okay? So I'm going to close that up. And I couldn't. Why couldn't I? Because I forgot. Let me zoom down here. I forgot to switch into my stitching mode. So it wouldn't let me close that up. Thank goodness, because, you know, I would try to do something stupid like that. All right. So when I go to stitch this, I am going to put my foot on. And you have to pardon me, I'm still not used to how this works. That's the biggest challenge of all these different sergers. Where the presser foot lifter is, and what up is, and what down is. If you get close, and I know I'm not in, a lot of times you can just push the button that you use to release it, and it will snap it in the rest of the way. So my foot's in. Now the other thing I do when I'm doing this is you need to have a piece of water-soluble stabilizer. So what I do is I have an embroidery machine. Whatever I use water-soluble stabilizing, what I do is I just cut it in strips and I save it in a Ziploc bag. So I don't have to go cut up new stuff. I can just use what I have on hand. And I'm going to come down here, and here is my sample right here. And I did find, I thought it was a little easier to start. And I'm going to stand up to do this. There's no way I can do this sitting down where I am. Put the foot pedal. They actually stitched on the stabilizer just a little bit. Okay. Now I will go in here and slip this under. And notice, I could use my knee lift here, except I don't have it on. I'm just going to slip this under. I use pitch, instead of using the press-a-foot lifter, I'm just using my finger right there. And I'm going to run this. I want to run this. Let's see if I can zoom right in for you guys, okay? I'm going to run this so the edge of my fabric is just going in. There's my blade right there, just about kissing the left edge of my blade. Whoop! What did we do? We got something caught back here. Oh, I got a tail caught. Always keep an eye on your tails. Let me pull that out and we should be just fine. Great. Well, now you see why I always say to watch your tails. And I can see it's caught right in here. Excuse me 1 second. There we go. It was wrapped around the foot. And I'm actually cutting a little bit off, and that's fine. Now, you may ask why I have the waterproof stabilizer. Because when you look at this stitch doesn't look anything like my stitch, does it? Because it's not complete. I'm going to take that water-soluble stabilizer and I'm going to give it a tug. Pull it over. And now I have, you notice I have to give it a pretty good tug and move my fingers around, do a little fancy-dancy fingering here. And now you see I have a beautiful edge stitch, or for edge stitching. It looks like a blanket stitch. No, it does not look like a blanket stitch on the back, but that's fine. It looks like it on the front. Once you can, typically this is a little heavier water soluble. Sometimes I have a lighter weight in here, so this doesn't rip so easily. The lighter weight stuff will rip. You know, the stuff you use for topper, that will rip away a lot more easily. You can just take and run a little bit of water, like a Q-tip or something, right, a paintbrush right along that edge, and this will pull right out, and then you have a beautiful edge on your blanket. So this kind of serves, I'm going to zoom back out again, as a quick introduction to the new Viking Amber Air S600, which is a 5-thread serger with the automatic threading, the air threading, and then it has the beauty of having all the information built right on board, which is very nice. And it has the ability to create, like I just did, is I created a stitch that I know I'm going to come back to a lot. So rather than have to keep going in every time and making certain adjustments, this is a stitch I'm going to do a lot. So I saved it because this works for me. This is what works for me for this stitch. So that is our introduction, and I will try to focus back on me. Okay. And, oh, nope. I'm here somewhere. Oh, now you see my computer, which you see me looking at. So that's the end of my little lecture for today. If you have any questions, you can call NashuaSewingVac.com. No, Nashua Sewing Vac at 603-888-2757. Our website is NashuaSewingVac.com, and classes are listed on there, anything, information, and we'll be glad to help you. Thank you very much.